In 1944, an entire American town disappeared without a trace. No screams, no struggles, just silence. 2 years later, every single resident was found walking back down Main Street. But something was terribly wrong. Their eyes had changed. They couldn't remember where they'd been. And within weeks, people started noticing something even more disturbing. What happened during those missing 2 years? Why did nobody age? And what were they trying to hide? The town of Ashford, Nebraska sat quiet in the heartland of America during the final year of World War II. Population 843. Everyone knew everyone. The kind of place where front doors stayed unlocked and neighbors shared Sunday suppers. Margaret Thompson ran the general store. Frank Willis operated the grain elevator. Children played kick-the-can in dusty streets, while their fathers listened to war news on crackling radios. Nothing about Ashford suggested it would become America's greatest unsolved mystery. But on November 14, 1944, something changed. A traveling salesman named Robert Chen drove into town around 3 in the afternoon. He needed to make his usual deliveries to the hardware store. What he found instead would haunt him for the rest of his life. The town was completely empty. Robert parked his truck on Main Street and stepped out into eerie silence. No children playing. No shopkeepers sweeping sidewalks. No cars moving. Just wind pushing tumbleweeds past the barber shop. He called out. His voice echoed off empty storefronts. He walked to the diner where he always stopped for coffee. The door stood open. A pot of coffee still sat on the stove, lukewarm. Half-eaten sandwiches waited on plates. Like everyone had simply stood up mid-bite and walked away. Robert's hands started shaking. He checked the post office, the church, the schoolhouse. All empty. Desks still held open books. The blackboard showed a half-finished arithmetic lesson. In the residential streets, laundry hung frozen on clotheslines. A bicycle lay on its side in a front yard. But where was everyone? Robert ran back to his truck and drove 20 miles to the nearest town with a sheriff's office. Sheriff Dale Morrison didn't believe him at first. An entire town doesn't just vanish. But Robert's terrified expression convinced him to investigate. They drove back to Ashford with 2 deputies. The sun was setting as they arrived. The empty streets looked even more unnatural in the fading light. Sheriff Morrison split his men up to search every building. They found more disturbing details. In the Thompson house, a bath had been drawn. Water still sat in the tub, now ice-cold. At the schoolhouse, milk in small cartons had begun to sour. The church organ was pulled out, sheet music open to a hymn. Everything pointed to sudden interruption. Not planned departure, not evacuation. Something had stopped life in Ashford mid-moment. The sheriff called the state police. By midnight, over 50 law enforcement officers descended on Ashford. They brought search dogs and flashlights. The dogs acted strangely, whining and refusing to track beyond the town limits, as if some invisible line marked where they refused to go. Officers searched every basement, every attic, every storm shelter. They found nothing. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no blood, no notes explaining anything. The military got involved next. America was at war. Could this be enemy action? Some kind of secret weapon? Federal agents arrived in unmarked cars. They interviewed Robert Chen for hours. They questioned Sheriff Morrison. They examined every inch of Ashford. Theories flew. Gas attack, mass abduction, cult activity, Soviet spies. Nothing explained how 843 people could disappear simultaneously without leaving a single clue. Newspapers across America picked up the story. Nebraska town vanishes screamed headlines. Radio broadcasts carried updates. Families of Ashford residents flooded authorities with desperate calls. Where were their loved ones? The government tried to keep details quiet, fearing panic. But information leaked. Reporters camped outside Ashford's borders. Photographers snapped pictures of empty streets. The images unsettled everyone who saw them. Weeks passed, then months. Investigators found no answers. The government eventually classified the case and pulled most personnel. A small team stayed to monitor the town. They installed security checkpoints. No civilians allowed in. The official story became vaguer. Ongoing investigation. No comment. Matter of national security. Families were told to wait. But waiting without answers breaks people. Some families held funerals for empty caskets. Others refused to accept death without proof. 2 years crawled by. Ashford remained frozen in time, a ghost town that nobody could explain. Then something impossible happened. On November 14th, 1946, exactly 2 years after the disappearance, a state trooper named Vincent Hayes was making his regular patrol past the Ashford checkpoints. It was just after dawn. Fog hung thick over the prairie. Vincent almost didn't see them at first. People walking down the main road toward town. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Moving in silence through the morning mist. Vincent radioed frantically for backup. His voice shook. They're back. All of them. They're all coming back. Within an hour, military vehicles surrounded the returning residents. Soldiers formed a perimeter. Medical teams rushed in. And everyone waited to hear where these people had been for 730 days. But the residents of Ashford couldn't answer that question. They seemed confused by it. Margaret Thompson, the store owner, looked at the calendar and insisted it was still November 1944. Frank Willis asked about the war news from yesterday. Young Sarah Patterson wanted to know if she'd missed her piano lesson. None of them had any memory of leaving. None remembered the past 2 years. They thought they'd simply walked into town that morning like any other day. Medical examinations began immediately. Doctors expected to find signs of malnutrition, stress, injury, something that explained where they'd been. Instead, they found people in perfect health. Too perfect. No one had aged, not even slightly. Elderly residents looked exactly as they had 2 years prior. Children hadn't grown an inch. Haircuts were the same length. Even their clothes showed no additional wear. The medical findings defied explanation. A 78-year-old man named Howard Pierce had advanced arthritis in 1944. Doctors had given him 2 years to live, maybe less. Now his joints moved smoothly. His arthritis had reversed. A woman named Dorothy Chen had been 7 months pregnant when the town vanished. She was no longer pregnant, but she had no memory of giving birth, no baby, no explanation. Her body showed no signs of ever completing the pregnancy. Dental records were checked and rechecked. Every resident matched their original records perfectly. No new cavities, no additional wear on fillings, no healing injuries. It was as if time had simply stopped for these 843 people. But stopped where? The military quarantined the entire town. Families begged to see their returned loved ones. The government refused, not until they understood what had happened. Psychiatrists interviewed every resident extensively. The accounts were maddeningly consistent. Everyone remembered November 14th, 1944 clearly. They'd been going about normal activities. Then, suddenly, they were walking back into town on a foggy morning. Nothing in between. No dreams. No memories. No sense of time passing. Just a skip from one moment to another, like a scratched record jumping forward. Some residents seemed frustrated by the questioning. Others grew distressed. A few became angry. "Why do you keep asking where we've been?" demanded Margaret Thompson. "We've been right here, in Ashford. Where else would we be?" The psychiatrists noted something troubling. The residents genuinely believed they'd never left. Their confusion seemed authentic. But how could 800 people share the exact same delusion? The government kept the residents in quarantine for 6 months. During that time, researchers conducted every test imaginable: blood work, brain scans, radiation exposure checks, hypnosis sessions. Nothing revealed answers. The residents remained physically healthy and mentally consistent in their story. Eventually, pressure from families and civil rights lawyers forced the government to release them. But they couldn't go back to Ashford. The town had been sealed off as an investigation site. Families had to relocate the returned residents to other communities. The government provided some financial assistance. Not nearly enough. Many families were angry. They'd lost 2 years. Their loved ones returned unchanged, but forever changed. And nobody would explain why. The official report, when it finally came, said almost nothing. Unexplained phenomenon. Investigation ongoing. No threat to public safety identified. Most residents tried to rebuild their lives elsewhere, but it wasn't easy. They'd lost 2 years of history. The world had moved on without them. The war was ending. Soldiers were coming home. Everything felt different. The residents themselves struggled with a profound sense of dislocation. Imagine going to sleep and waking up in a world where everyone is 2 years older, 2 years changed. But you're exactly the same. Children found it especially hard. They were still the same age, but their classmates had moved ahead. Former friends seemed like strangers. Some families moved far away, trying to escape the attention. Others stayed in Nebraska, determined to find answers. A few residents began meeting privately. They compared notes. They tried to help each other remember anything, any small detail about those missing 2 years. Then the nightmares began. About 3 months after their release, several residents reported the same disturbing dream. They were standing in darkness, complete darkness. But they weren't alone. They could feel others nearby, hundreds of others, standing perfectly still, waiting. But waiting for what? The dreamers would wake in terror, unable to remember more. But the feeling stayed with them. The suffocating sensation of being trapped in darkness with a crowd of silent people. Dorothy Chen, the formerly pregnant woman, was among the first to report these dreams. She told her sister, Ruth, who'd taken her in. "I see eyes in the darkness," Dorothy whispered. "Red eyes, watching all of us, waiting for something." Ruth thought her sister was having a breakdown. She wasn't. Within weeks, dozens of other Ashford residents reported identical nightmares. Red eyes in the darkness, the sensation of being watched, the feeling that they were all waiting for something they couldn't name. A journalist named Patricia Caldwell became obsessed with the Ashford case. She'd covered the initial disappearance and never believed the government's vague explanations. When she heard about the shared nightmares, she began tracking down former residents. She interviewed over 200 people. The consistency of their stories unsettled her. These weren't random dreams. They were memories trying to surface. Patricia discovered something else troubling. Several residents were developing unusual abilities. Howard Pierce, the old man whose arthritis had vanished, could now predict small future events. He'd know when the phone would ring seconds before it did. He'd know what someone was about to say. Nothing dramatic, just small moments of precognition. Margaret Thompson developed perfect memory. She could recall every conversation, every detail, every face she'd seen. even from decades ago. Her mind had become a flawless recording device. Other changes were more disturbing. Frank Willis stopped sleeping entirely. He didn't seem to need it. He'd stay awake night after night, feeling perfectly rested. A young teacher named Elizabeth Moore noticed she no longer felt pain. She accidentally cut her hand while cooking, deep enough to need stitches, but she felt nothing, no pain at all. The wound healed unusually fast too, within days instead of weeks. Patricia documented everything carefully. She tried to publish her findings. Newspapers refused. Too controversial, too unbelievable. Magazine editors thought she'd lost her mind. But Patricia kept investigating. She knew something profound had happened to these people. Something the government didn't understand. Or maybe something the government understood too well and wanted to keep secret. In 1948, 3 years after the return, tragedy struck. Sarah Patterson, the girl who'd asked about her piano lesson, died suddenly. She was only 14. Heart failure, the doctors said. But her heart had been perfectly healthy. The autopsy revealed something strange. Her organs appeared to be breaking down at an accelerated rate, as if years of aging were catching up all at once. The doctors couldn't explain it. Within months, 3 more Ashford residents died the same way. Panic spread through the survivor community. Were they all dying? Was this delayed punishment for whatever had happened? More residents developed the accelerated aging symptoms. But not everyone. Some remained perfectly healthy. Patricia Caldwell investigated and found a pattern. The residents who developed abilities, the ones experiencing changes, were dying. Those who remained unchanged, who'd returned exactly as they left, seemed stable. The government noticed too. Federal agents began contacting survivors again. They wanted to run more tests. Some residents agreed, desperate for answers. Others refused, angry at years of government silence. Patricia managed to get copies of some test results through a sympathetic lab technician. What she read made her blood run cold. The changed residents weren't entirely human anymore. At a cellular level, something fundamental had altered. Their DNA contained sequences that didn't match any known human pattern. Doctors couldn't explain it. It was as if someone had edited their genetic code, added something, or replaced something. The ones who were dying seemed to be rejecting these changes. Their bodies were fighting against whatever had been done to them. But the ones who'd successfully integrated the changes remained healthy. They were becoming something new, something other. Patricia tried to warn the survivors. She held a secret meeting in 1949. About 60 former Ashford residents attended. She shared everything she'd learned: the DNA changes, the pattern of deaths, the fact that they weren't quite human anymore. The room erupted in confusion and anger. Some people called her a liar, others demanded proof, but many already suspected something was deeply wrong with them. "We need to go back," said Margaret Thompson quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Back to Ashford. That's where it happened. Whatever changed us, it happened there. Maybe if we go back, we'll remember. Maybe we'll understand. The suggestion terrified most people. Return to the place where they'd lost 2 years, where something had fundamentally altered them. But Margaret's logic was undeniable. Ashford held the only answers. The government still maintained a security perimeter around Ashford. The town remained off-limits. But the survivors were determined. In October 1949, a group of 37 former residents made the journey. They included Margaret Thompson, Frank Willis, Howard Pierce, and Dorothy Chen. Patricia Caldwell came with them to document everything. They drove through the night, arriving at Ashford just before dawn. The security checkpoints were lightly manned now. 5 years had passed since the disappearance. The government had reduced the garrison to a handful of guards. The group approached the main checkpoint. A young soldier named Thomas Bradley stopped them. He recognized some faces from news photos. "You can't be here," he said nervously. "This is a restricted area." But 37 determined people weren't easily turned away. Margaret stepped forward. "We lived here. This is our town. We have a right to see it." Thomas radioed his superior, a captain named Richard Foster. Foster arrived 20 minutes later. He looked at the group of former residents and sighed. "I can't let you in. Orders." Margaret crossed her arms. "Then arrest us. Because we're not leaving." The standoff lasted an hour. More survivors arrived. Then reporters. Patricia Caldwell had tipped off the press. Captain Foster realized he couldn't stop them without creating a major incident. The country was watching. Families of the survivors had hired lawyers. Civil rights groups were involved. Foster made a decision that would cost him his career. 4 hours, he said. "You have 4 hours inside the town. Then you leave, and you never come back." The survivors agreed. They walked past the checkpoint together, back into Ashford for the first time in 5 years. The town looked exactly as they'd left it. Buildings still stood empty. Cars from 1944 sat rusting on streets. The government had preserved everything as evidence. Walking through Ashford felt like stepping into a photograph, a frozen moment. The survivors spread out slowly, each person drawn to familiar places. Margaret went to her store, Frank to the grain elevator, Dorothy to the house where she'd lived with her husband. Patricia followed Margaret into the general store. Dust covered everything. Canned goods from 1944 lined the shelves. The cash register still held $38.72. Margaret touched the counter with trembling hands. "I remember standing here," she whispered. "It was a Tuesday morning. Mrs. Henderson came in for flour. I was measuring it out." Then she stopped. Her face went pale. "What?" Patricia asked. "What do you remember?" Margaret's eyes seemed to focus on something far away. A sound. "I remember a sound, like humming. But it came from everywhere at once, from the air itself, and everyone stopped moving. We all stopped. We could hear it. This humming that got louder and louder until it wasn't a sound anymore. It was a feeling. It was inside us. Outside, other survivors were having similar memories. Frank stood in the grain elevator, tears streaming down his face. He remembered the humming too, and something else. A light, brilliant white light that came from nowhere and everywhere. It didn't hurt to look at. It was beautiful, almost hypnotic. The survivors had all walked toward the light, not because they had to, because they wanted to, because it called to them. Howard Pierce sat in the church. He remembered more than most. Perhaps his age gave him perspective, or perhaps his mind had always been sharper. He remembered walking toward the light with everyone else, all 843 residents moving together, out of their homes, out of their shops, down Main Street toward the edge of town, where the light was brightest, where something waited. It was a doorway, Howard said when the others gathered around him. His voice shook. The light was a doorway to somewhere else, and we walked through it, all of us. We stepped through, and we were in the darkness from our dreams. We stood there, perfectly still, and something examined us. Something studied us. I could feel it moving between us, touching us, changing us. The survivors looked at each other in horror. The memories were flooding back now. Being in that place of darkness, time didn't exist there. They could have been there for minutes or centuries. There was no way to measure it. The presence in the darkness didn't communicate with words. It communicated with feelings, curiosity, assessment, experimentation. It was testing them, changing them, to see what would happen. Dorothy Chen hugged herself. She remembered what happened to her pregnancy now. The presence had removed the unborn child, not cruelly, almost clinically, like a scientist removing a variable from an experiment. Her baby had never existed outside that dark place. It was taken somewhere else, perhaps studied separately, perhaps still alive in some way she couldn't understand. The thought made her want to scream. "Why did it let us go?" asked Frank. "Why send us back?" Howard shook his head slowly. "I don't think it sent us back. I think it put us back. Returned us to the moment it took us from. Like putting laboratory animals back in their cage after running tests. It wanted to see what would happen to us, how we'd develop, whether the changes would take." The implications settled over the group like ice water. They weren't survivors. They were specimens. An experiment. The presence had altered them and released them back into the world to observe the results. The deaths weren't punishment. They were data points. Some experiments failed. Some succeeded. The presence was learning from each outcome. Patricia was frantically taking notes. This was the biggest story of her career. But she felt sick. These were people, not subjects. "We need to tell the world," she said. "People need to know what happened here." Margaret turned to her. Something in Margaret's eyes made Patricia step back. They weren't quite human eyes anymore. They held something ancient, something other. "Tell them what?" Margaret asked softly. "That we were taken by something we can't explain, studied by an intelligence we can't understand, changed into something not quite human anymore. Do you think the world is ready for that truth?" Patricia didn't answer, because Margaret was right. The truth was too big, too terrifying. People needed their world to make sense. This didn't make sense. The 4 hours ended. Captain Foster and his soldiers came to escort the survivors out, but something had changed in the town. The survivors could feel it, as if their presence, their remembering, had awakened something. The air felt thick, electric. The humming sound began again, quiet at first, then louder. The soldiers heard it too. "What is that?" Thomas Bradley asked nervously. His hand went to his weapon. "It's coming back," Howard said simply. "It knows we remembered. It knows we understand." The light began to form at the edge of town. Same as before, beautiful and terrible. The soldiers wanted to run, but something held them in place. Not force, fascination. The light was calling to them now too. Patricia grabbed her camera. She had to document this, even if no one believed her. The survivors stood watching the light, but they weren't afraid anymore. They understood now. This was always going to happen. They were always going to be called back. The presence wasn't done with them. The initial study was complete. Now came the next phase, whatever that meant. Margaret took Dorothy's hand. Frank stood beside them. Howard smiled sadly. He'd always known his second chance at life couldn't last. "You should go," Margaret told Patricia. "Take the soldiers. Leave while you can." Patricia shook her head. "I need to see. I need to know." Margaret looked at her with those ancient eyes. "No, you don't. Trust me. Some knowledge breaks you. Some truths are too heavy. Go. Tell what you can. But leave before the door opens fully." Captain Foster grabbed Patricia's arm. "She's right. We need to evacuate. Now." He ordered his men to fall back. Thomas Bradley couldn't look away from the light. Foster had to physically pull him. They ran for the vehicles. Patricia looked back once. The survivors were walking toward the light, all 37 of them, moving with purpose now, not compelled, choosing. They understood what was being offered. Another chance to see, to learn, to become more than human. The convoy of military vehicles and Patricia's car roared away from Ashford. Behind them, the light grew brighter. Patricia's camera clicked again and again through the rear window. She captured the moment the light engulfed the town. The moment it lifted. The moment everything vanished, including the survivors. When they turned back an hour later to investigate, Ashford was completely empty again. No people. No bodies. Nothing. The government sealed Ashford permanently. They built a concrete wall around the entire town, posted warnings, declared it a hazardous waste site. No one was allowed within 5 miles. The official story blamed a chemical spill. Cover-up complete. Most of the remaining Ashford survivors who hadn't gone back that day disappeared over the following year. Some vanished from their homes. Others walked out of hospitals, never to be seen again. A few were found at the Ashford Wall, trying to get through. By 1951, only 12 of the original 843 residents remained. They lived quietly in different parts of the country, never speaking about what happened, never contacting each other. Patricia Caldwell tried to publish her findings. Every newspaper and magazine rejected her manuscript. Some editors told her to stop investigating, for her own good. She received anonymous phone calls warning her to drop the story. Patricia didn't drop it. She spent the next 5 years compiling evidence, interviewing the remaining survivors who would speak to her, collecting documents, taking photographs. In 1956, she finally published a book through a small independent press. The Ashford Incident, America's Hidden Truth. It sold fewer than 2,000 copies. Most mainstream reviewers dismissed it as conspiracy theory, science fiction, the ravings of someone who'd lost perspective. But some people believed her. The book found an audience among those who questioned official narratives, who knew that governments kept secrets, who'd seen things they couldn't explain. Patricia received hundreds of letters, many from people reporting similar incidents, entire families that vanished for hours, groups of people who lost time, small towns where everyone reported seeing strange lights. Was Ashford unique? Or was it part of something larger? In 1958, Patricia received a letter that changed everything. It came from a man who claimed to be a former military intelligence officer named Daniel Cross. He'd worked on the Ashford investigation in 1946. He wanted to meet, to share what he knew. They arranged to meet at a diner in Oklahoma. Patricia drove 12 hours to get there. Daniel was already waiting in a back booth when she arrived. He was older than she expected, mid-60s. His hands shook as he stirred his coffee. "I shouldn't be here," he said, "but I can't die with this secret." He pulled a manila envelope from his coat. There were others, before Ashford, small groups, a few people here and there, all returned with no memory, all showing the same signs. We've been tracking this phenomenon since 1938. Patricia's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were declassified documents, reports of disappearances spanning decades, some dating back to the late 1800s. Entire wagon trains vanishing in the American West. A whaling crew that returned to their ship after 3 days ashore with no memory of that time. A mining town in Colorado where everyone reported losing 6 hours one afternoon in 1892. The pattern was clear. This had been happening for generations. Ashford was just the largest incident. What are they? Patricia asked. The presence, the lights. What are they? Daniel shook his head. We don't know. We have theories. Some think they're from another planet. Others believe they're from another dimension. A few scientists propose they might be from our future, time travelers studying their ancestors. But honestly, we have no idea. They're completely beyond our understanding. Why hasn't anyone told the public? Patricia demanded. Daniel laughed bitterly. Tell them what? That something is taking people, studying them, changing them. That we have no way to stop it, no way to predict it. People would panic. Society would collapse. The government decided silence was safer. He pushed another document across the table. "This is the real reason I called you. There's going to be another incident. Soon. We've detected the same energy readings that preceded Ashford, building in intensity, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, probably within the next year." Patricia stared at the document. Technical data she barely understood, but the implications were clear. It was going to happen again. More people would vanish. More lives destroyed. "We have to warn them," she said. Daniel stood up to leave. "Warn who? We don't know where exactly. Could be any town in a 1,000-mile radius. And even if we knew, what would we tell them? Lock your doors. The light comes through walls. Say your prayers. Maybe that's all anyone can do." Daniel left the diner. Patricia never saw him again. She tried to verify his identity through military records. They had no record of anyone named Daniel Cross in intelligence. Either he'd used a false name or his records had been erased. She couldn't publish his documents. They were too classified. Printing them could land her in prison. But she kept investigating, tracking energy readings when she could, following rumors of strange lights, trying to predict where the next incident would occur. In March 1959, it happened. A small logging camp in northern Washington, population 73. Every person vanished overnight. Patricia arrived 3 days later. The scene was identical to Ashford. Half-eaten meals, clothes hanging on lines. Work stopped mid-task, but this time the government responded faster. The area was sealed within hours. No reporters allowed. No witnesses interviewed. Complete information blackout. Patricia managed to sneak past the perimeter. She found the empty camp and photographed everything. But she also found something new. Symbols, carved into trees around the camp's edge. Complex geometric patterns that hurt to look at. They seemed to shift and move when she wasn't looking directly at them. She photographed them too. Later, when she had the film developed, the symbols didn't appear on the photos, just blank spots where they should have been, as if they existed outside normal space. The loggers returned 6 months later, same as before, no memories. Physical changes. Some developed abilities. Others stayed normal. A few died within the year. The pattern repeated exactly. Patricia published an update to her book documenting the new incident. This time she sold even fewer copies. People were tired of her stories. The space age was beginning. America looked to the future. They didn't want to hear about unexplained mysteries from the past. Patricia grew older. Her obsession with the Ashford case never faded. She collected reports from around the world. Similar incidents in Russia, in Brazil, in Australia, always the same pattern. Groups of people, sudden vanishing, eventual return with no memory. The presence was global. It wasn't just studying Americans. It was studying humanity, conducting experiments on a species-wide scale. But to what end? What was it learning? What was the purpose? In 1968, Patricia received a final letter from one of the surviving Ashford residents, Elizabeth Moore, the teacher who'd stopped feeling pain. She was dying now, cancer. But the disease didn't hurt. Nothing ever hurt anymore. She wanted Patricia to know something. "I've been having dreams," Elizabeth wrote, "different from before. In these dreams, I understand. I see what they're preparing us for. It's beautiful and terrible. We're not the end. We're the beginning. They're making us ready for something that's coming. Something too big for human minds to grasp." Elizabeth died before Patricia could visit her. But the letter haunted Patricia, making us ready for what? She thought about the survivors who developed abilities, enhanced memory, precognition, immunity to pain, faster healing. Were these upgrades, improvements to human design? Was the presence enhancing humanity for some future purpose? Or were they creating a new species, something that would eventually replace baseline humans? Patricia published her final book in 1972, Beyond Ashford, The Evolution Agenda. In it, she proposed a theory. The incidents weren't random. They were systematic, carefully planned experiments spread across generations. The presence was slowly modifying humanity, testing different changes, observing results, building toward something, a transformed human race, or perhaps a new race entirely, one that could survive whatever was coming. The book was her most controversial. Scientists mocked it. Religious groups called it heretical. The government ignored it, but a small group of readers believed. They formed networks, started investigating similar cases on their own. Patricia became a reluctant figurehead for a movement she never intended to create. People seeking truth about the hidden alterations to human evolution. She died in 1983. Heart failure. She was 72 years old. Her papers and research were donated to a small private library. Most of it remains unexamined. Too controversial for mainstream researchers, too detailed for casual conspiracy theorists. But it's all there. Decades of evidence, photographs, interviews, documents. A comprehensive record of humanity's secret contact with something beyond understanding. And the question Patricia could never answer: when the experiments are complete, what will we have become? Howard Pierce, the oldest Ashford survivor, lived longer than anyone expected. He made it to 1993, nearly 50 years after his return. In his final days, he gave an interview to a documentarian interested in the Ashford case. Howard's mind remained sharp despite his 126 years. He spoke clearly about his experiences, about the changes he'd undergone, about watching most of his fellow survivors die or vanish again. People ask me if I regret it, Howard said. Going back that day in 1949, walking into the light a second time, seeing what I saw, I don't. Because I understand now. We were chosen for a reason, not randomly. The presence doesn't just take anyone. It selects carefully. People at turning points, communities facing change. It studies how we adapt, how we transform. It's learning about resilience, about evolution, about survival. But why? The documentarian asked. What does it want? Howard smiled. It wasn't quite a human smile anymore. It's preparing us. Humanity isn't ready for what's coming. We're too fragile, too limited, too bound by our biology. But we have potential. The presence sees that potential. It's been guiding our evolution for thousands of years. Gentle pushes, small modifications, watching to see which changes help us survive. The documentarian felt cold despite the warm room. What's coming? What are we being prepared for? Howard looked toward the window. His eyes saw something beyond the glass, beyond the visible world. Contact, he said simply. Full contact. Not these careful experiments. Not these hidden interactions. Something is coming that will change everything. And when it arrives, humanity needs to be ready. Needs to be more than what we are now. That's what Ashford was about. Testing who can handle the transformation, who can evolve, who can survive what comes next. Howard Pierce died 3 days later. He was the last survivor of the original Ashford incident. His death closed a chapter, but it didn't end the story, because the incidents continue. Smaller now, quieter. The government has gotten better at covering them up, but they still happen. A family camping trip where 8 hours vanish. A small town in Montana where everyone reports seeing lights. A fishing vessel where the crew returns to shore changed in subtle ways. And there are the children, second-generation subjects, born to survivors of various incidents. Some show abilities from birth. Others develop them in adolescence. They're tracked quietly by government agencies, studied, monitored, never told the truth about their parents, about what was done to their genetic code, about what they're becoming. There are thousands of them now, scattered across America, across the world, a hidden subspecies living among baseline humans. Some of them know something is different about themselves. They find each other, form communities, share experiences. They call themselves the changed. They've built networks online, encrypted forums where they discuss their abilities, their memories of things they shouldn't remember, dreams that aren't quite dreams. They're waiting. For what? They're not entirely sure, but they feel it coming. That moment Howard Pierce mentioned. When everything changes, scientists have begun noticing patterns, evolution happening too fast in certain populations, genetic mutations that should take thousands of years appearing in single generations, enhanced cognitive abilities, improved immune systems, longer lifespans. The evidence suggests directed evolution, not natural selection. Something is guiding human development, accelerating it. Toward what endpoint, science can't determine. But the data is clear. Humanity is changing, whether we acknowledge it or not. The town of Ashford still stands behind its concrete walls, sealed for over 70 years now. But people report strange things near the perimeter. Lights in the sky, humming sounds, the feeling of being watched. Some claim to see figures moving in the empty streets, shadows that look almost human. The government maintains it's a contaminated site, dangerous to enter, but some believe the presence never left, that it's still there, still watching, still waiting. In 2019, satellite imagery caught something strange. The concrete walls around Ashford were cracking, breaking apart from the inside, as if something was pushing outward. The government deployed teams to reinforce the barriers. But the pressure continues. The walls crack faster than they can be repaired. It's as if the town itself is trying to open, to release whatever is inside, or to invite something in. There are theories about what comes next. Some believe the presence will reveal itself openly, end the hidden experiments, and make full contact. Others think we're approaching a tipping point, when enough humans have been changed, altered, enhanced. When the new subspecies reaches critical mass, what happens then? Does baseline humanity get left behind? Do we integrate? Or does something replace us entirely? The descendants of Ashford survivors have their own beliefs. Many feel drawn to the sealed town. They dream of walking through those empty streets, of touching the same doorways their grandparents touched, of finding answers to questions they've carried their whole lives. Why were we chosen? What are we becoming? What happens when the change is complete? The government fears the day when enough descendants gather, when they might try to break through the walls, to return to the source, to complete whatever was started in 1944. Patricia Caldwell's research has found new life in the digital age. Her books, once obscure, have been scanned and shared online. New generations discover her work. Some dismiss it. Others see patterns they recognize. Urban legends about missing time, stories of alien abduction, tales of people who vanish and return changed. Are these all manifestations of the same phenomenon? Different cultures interpreting the same experience through their own frameworks. Researchers have begun connecting incidents across time. The Roanoke colony vanished without trace in 1590. Maybe they came back eventually, changed, unrecognized. Ancient texts describe gods descending from the sky to test humans, to mate with them, to create hybrid offspring. Are these memories of the same presence? Has it been guiding human evolution since the beginning? Are we products of intervention stretching back millennia. The question that haunts researchers most is the one Patricia Caldwell asked in her final book. What happens when the experiments end? When the presence has gathered all its data, modified enough subjects, prepared enough humans for whatever is coming? Does it leave? Does it reveal its purpose? Or does the next phase begin? A phase that makes the Ashford incident look like a gentle introduction. There are reports of people vanishing now who never come back. Not in 2 years. Not ever. Entire families. Gone without explanation. The government doesn't even bother investigating anymore. Just adds them to a classified database. Marks them as missing. The numbers are increasing. Hundreds yearly now. Maybe thousands. Are these failed experiments? Or successful ones? People who passed some test and were taken permanently, removed from baseline humanity, incorporated into whatever is being built beyond our understanding. Some of the changed report shared visions. They see a future where two humanities exist, the baseline and the evolved, living separately, perhaps peacefully, perhaps not. They see cities that float, technologies that merge human and something else. They see the sky opening, not with fire or destruction, but with invitation. A choice being offered, evolve or remain, transform or stay static. No judgment in either direction, just two paths diverging. But there's darkness in the visions too. Not everyone survives the transformation. The human body, the human mind, has limits. Push too hard against those limits and something breaks. The changed who die young, who develop cancers, who lose their grip on reality. These are the ones who couldn't integrate the modifications, the experiments that didn't take. Their deaths aren't cruel, just inevitable. Nature selecting who moves forward, who stays behind. In 2023, something happened that received almost no attention. A small town in Alaska, population 412. Everyone reported seeing lights on the same night. Everyone lost 3 hours. But this time, they remembered. Not everything, but fragments. Being examined, being altered, being given a choice. Accept the changes or have them removed. Remember or forget. Most chose forgetting. Returned to their normal lives with no memory of what occurred. But 37 residents, the same number that returned to Ashford in 1949, chose to remember. They're different now. They speak of understanding things beyond language, seeing patterns in chaos, feeling connections between all living things. They describe it as evolution, not of body but of consciousness. They say the presence isn't alien, isn't from another world. It's from what humanity will become. Time travelers from our own future, reaching back to ensure we survive to become them, guiding our evolution so the timeline remains intact, so they can exist. The truth may be simpler, or more complex, or too vast for human comprehension. We may never know what walked into Ashford that November day in 1944. What studied those 843 people? What changed them? What sent them back? We may never understand the purpose behind decades of similar incidents. The systematic modification of human genetics, the creation of the changed, the preparation for something coming. But the evidence suggests we're approaching an ending, or a beginning. The incidents are intensifying. More people affected, deeper changes. The walls around Ashford continue cracking. The changed continue gathering. Something is building toward a moment, a convergence, when the experiments conclude and the next phase begins. What that phase holds, we can only guess. Patricia Caldwell spent her life seeking truth. She died without finding it. Maybe we all will. Or maybe, if Howard Pierce was right, the truth isn't something we discover. It's something we become. And the transformation has already begun. The question isn't whether it will happen. The question is, Are you ready to change?